and I never ever want to put you on blast without permission, but sometimes I just want to screenshot our conversations because, I mean, between you and Foreman, kind of the two guys that I think are patient enough to talk through defense and aren't going to cram it down folks' throats that don't know defense, right? Can just make it about, can simplify it. When you look at this defense in its totality, generally speaking, what do you think was the ultimate undoing for Coach Butler?
And I think I may be talking more in generalities here.
Which is good. Which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Because I
Well,
think
and I'll say,
generally it was his undoing.
yeah, yeah, it was undoing. I don't know how much understanding, and this is just like I said in general with some coaches, right? They coach on the back end, and while a lot of those guys are passed up as DCs for linebacker coaches, right? It's because the understanding of front structure, and I think that was really, and we talked about it, not trying to put it on full blast, and we on air, but we talked about it more in depth that there just seemed to be some structural differences for what the front was doing and how the back end was fitting it, right?
Mm.
And I think, and this is just me just being around ball and being around coaches, that more times than not, a lot of defensive back coaches are not um they're just not aware or just understanding the intricacies of the front seven as much as needed to be the overall coordinator of a unit. And you saw that, right? I couldn't tell you if the backwards were playing, one gap or they were supposed to be stacking and falling back, right? I couldn't tell you what the philosophy was. Are we going to be a spill, dent, or force box team, right? I couldn't tell you, how we were supposed to get our fits on crack replace, right, and on the backside, right, a 3x1, or we're getting hit on those long runs. So there was just a lot of things that just for me, if I'm a linebacker coaching that defense, I'm looking at it as if I don't know how to tell my guys to fit here, right? I don't know how to tell the D line, hey, we're gonna gap exchange this. So there, to me, I think the under, and I could be completely wrong. Obviously, he's been in the NFL, he's done a lot of stuff, but just in general, from my coaching experience, even playing experience, DB coaches aren't as devoted to learning the front, right, and learning the intricacies and the small details that goes to being able to manipulate that to get the run fit that maybe you want on the back end. And again, Rule is the biggest writer on the wall coach that I've probably been able to kind of follow closely. Is, I mean, it was kind of the whole fitting from quarters and cover one thing. Like, it
You were
was already
I'm
there.
not crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're not
Remember
crazy.
in
It was
the off
already there, to where there was some type of miscommunication or lack of just knowing what we want to do. And you said it, I think before I came on, it's like, obviously our off season, right? They need to focus on what do they want to be and just do it, right? And we're not going outside the lines, right? If this guy's a fit that, I think I said that last night with K Dub, same thing. Like, you have to find something systematic about you defense and saying we are only recruiting these type of guys, right? And we're gonna pick out an area in the country where we can get these guys in plentiful, right? And still have to compete with some high level schools, but then also, right, we have a chance to actually go get them, right? So I think at least defensively, like you mentioned, they got to get something more systematic and stay within that system as far as the players, even the coaches and their mentality and how they coach it, their experience. But then also, like I said, I think at the end of the day, it's a lot harder for those DB guys to really understand the fronts, and I think that's kind of what caused some negative, obviously some negative plays, and obviously Butler's job.
Yeah, well, I'm always trying to. I'm a big "how did we get here" guy, right? So
Right.
whether it's me that made the bad decision or somebody else made the bad decision or whatever, like I'm coaching, whatever. I'm always like, well, how did I get here? And I go back to something I talked about after one of the coaching clinics I went to in year one at Nebraska. And people asked me about, didn't really know Tony White. Evan Cooper was his guy. And Coach Knighton was inexperienced at the collegiate level. And I remember saying, and I said this on air, I said one of the things that I was captivated by is that Coach Knighton and Coach Cooper worked in tandem, where Coach Knighton knew what they were doing on the back end, and the back end was predicated on what the front was doing. And I was like, gosh, I'm always appreciative of that connection. It seemed
Mhm.
like not low hanging fruit. It seems super obvious that it should be that way, right?
Right.
But I
You'd be
asked,
surprised. You'd be,
no, no,
you,
no, MRI.
I mean, not you. I mean, not you. Not you. But I
You're
mean,
one
just I think the
hundred.
overall general fan would be
Yeah.
thoroughly surprised how
So
many defenses are bad, not because the players are bad, because the structure is just not aligned from the three levels.
So I asked Coach Bush a question, and listen, I love Coach Bush. I think he's super smart. I
Oh
I,
yeah, for sure.
I think he's getting way too much credit for what he said, but he said it in such a simple way that I think people vibe. But I asked him the question. I said, "Hey, listen, how important is because I wanted the audience to understand what I'm talking about when I've been saying this for a couple years. How important is it that you're married in the back end versus what you want to do on the front end?" Now, one thing what I thought he was really good. He talked about, we give down calls or here calls. When I want to spill, our safeties will be like, "Hey, here, 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 here," so
Mhm.
they know OLBs know that they're there, or whatever. Right? There's that communication. But he said, when I took over in a pinch, instead of showing it and getting down to it, we just lined up in it.
Yeah,
And all, like, the light bulb went on for everybody that was listening. It's like, yeah, just do that. But there is some give and take there too.
yeah.
When you're looking at what Nebraska could have done differently, was there a time where you just would have said, "Hey, let's line up in it and just do this"? Do you think they would have been good enough to do that? Because the
I
answer was beautiful, right? But I'm saying, relative to what we actually want to happen, I don't know, like, if we would have settled for that real time.
I I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe my perception or how I was watching it, but I feel like that happened. I feel like
He,
there was a time in the season where I'm like, okay, they're not stemming as much. They're not crossing face as much.
yep,
They're trying to hold point. And for certain parts, a little bit of me was like, okay, that's a good thing. Again, what you're leading to with your question is how long is that sustainable,
yep,
right? If
yep.
our whole motto was been movement, 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 doing all this stuff from basically from the spring up into I would say about maybe mid-October was kind of when I saw the shift, right, in the kind of mentality of the play calls and just what they were doing. Um, yeah, I think there was a shift, and I think they tried to play more up front. I mean, you compare games, last 2 or 3 games, and what they did early in the year. Things were a little bit more competitive, but I mean, death by a thousand cuts. At some point, you're gonna give up, the big one, right? And they did that quite often. Um, and I go back to like that's why
That, that
I'm a big lover of like I love the saving system, even bowl system. I tell people all the time, bowl
open,
system is,
open, close, middle field thing.
but not even that, but just the marrying of the like our safeties had to know how that end was fitting. Like our safety, our corner and safety, the communication there, like there was an understanding of them being that you are a run fitter, right?
Do you
We're not
remember the
putting.
first question I asked you early in the season, Amar? I hate to cut you off, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna let you elaborate on your answer. I said, "Do you get the sense that the calls are site based on whether they want to box or spill
Yeah,
real time, and are they good enough to pull it off?" Do you remember
yeah,
that?
yeah. I remember that.
That was early,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Do you think they're adjusting on the fly?"
Yeah. No, I think again, when you have those systems, and look, there's a lot of front end work that goes into those type of systems where you got to teach. You got to have guys that are teachers, right? And even still, when you think about the type of, I'll go back to Bo just in general. Think about the type of safeties you got, right? Corey Cooper, fitter, right?
Yep.
Harvey Jackson, fitter.
Fitter,
Um, Name some other guys. The
Barry
Asante,
Asante,
Yep,
fitter,
Eric
fitter.
Aggie.
Who's the twins? PJ
Bullock.
Smith, Fitter,
Oh, yeah,
not
yeah,
Bullock.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're talking about
We had two twin I forget their names, man, but all of them were about in that range of 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1", right? Had a little frame on them, and when we called bracket or we called quarters and that tight end block down, those guys were able to come down and fit more times than not.
was
And
he not the biggest bracket? He would
oh,
bracket
oh,
was
bro,
the base, and then
we
you.
wouldn't even look to the sideline. Like we just wave y'all. We know you about to call four bracket. It's like we know what you're about to call. But I just think again it would be nice for them to get to a systematic approach. These are the type of guys we want here. If we get a freak that wants to come here and wants to be part of what we're doing, hey, we're gonna pursue it. But I think there has to be less chase and cat and mouse with recruiting, and they got to just go get their guys. I'm not worried about the recruiting service. I'm not necessarily worried about what school he came from. Like you guys are saying, the number one trait you need to find, especially nowadays with these young people, is competitiveness. And I think Rule's answer, like you said, was great too. Is guys that know how to fight through adversity. And I believe I agree with you, Ravi, that most guys that know how to fight through adversity are probably pretty dang competitive. So they have to get
Agree with that.
that part aligned, right, and get to that cycle. Like again, I mean, if anybody follows me, like you call me a fanboy, whatever. I love the psychology of the Saban landing
Mm.
smart because the thing is, again, we talk about, like you said, I don't ever want to give the cop that have the best players. If you go and put a microscope underneath their program, and I've looked in everywhere I can to just my own self want to be a head coach again, program building things like that. The psychological levels they go to with their players, for one, to build trust and connection, right? They're guys that if they trust you, they love you, they think you're going to do anything for them, they're going to run through a brick wall for you on the field. But two, giving them tools of leadership and then also understanding how I can put my leaders in best position and my guys are at that next level, right, that need to be leaders in the future, right, or in certain groups, right, how can I get them to that point? And I think that's just as much, at least what I am as a coach now, into more than X and O's is how do I build relationships to get a kid to do anything I say, right? And lead him in the right direction. And I think that's got to be just as big as a focus. I think about T Knight and I go back to, think about now with that D line room, that's a big personality you miss, right? That's a
Mm.
big personality in that room that can control guys that are now managing, $200,000, $300,000, right? You know what I mean? That's a big personality, a guy that played in the league, so instant credit there, right? Not saying Braden doesn't have that credit because he coached in the league, but when you played it and you coached it, it's hard not to, right? Hard not to pay attention in meetings. Okay, and so I think I agree with what you said. I think White and Knighton had more of a connection as far as the front and the back end working. And you got
And
to think
and,
too.
and
Again, I
Coop,
said this last night. I don't know how much of this was actually Butler's defense or just hey rule saying we want to
yep.
just continue what we've been doing and let's see if we can get through it. And this is the thing. I think Butler doesn't get fired if there wasn't a change of mentality in the way he may have went about his approach because I don't think you can put them to the burner as much as say, hey, this is your system, this is your scheme, this is on you. And more so, I think Rule had to see something in the day to day that said, all right,
I
I
can hang
don't.
my hat on this.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what it was. That's the first thing I messaged you. I was like, I want to hear the audio. Once the quotes start dropping on the, I was like, I want to hear the audio, and I heard the audio. I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And everyone's in the uproar that a coach should never, or that people are mad that Rule said that don't tell me that players are.
Listen,
I'm like, guys, that is
those
that
are
is
people
so that
that
is
just
so
don't.
surface level of what he's saying. That is so surface level,
There's
and we took the bait. A lot of people took the bait on it.
we so the thing that bugs me the most is we decide whether we what to do with the information, whether we like somebody or not.
Right.
Like that. Like we got to get past that.
Hmm.
Like what are they really saying? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, and I'm not. This isn't time to lament about what they don't have because they can't go back and get it.
Yep.
They, but what I will say, I to your point about how we kind of miss or we don't value the the sinking.
Hmm.
I've never seen a D line presentation than a secondary presentation in a coach's clinic, and those two guys stay for each other's clinic.
Yeah.
Year one, Coop came with T. Knighton. Knighton stayed for Coop. Now they're not. There's other good coaches and other people do it. Hear my heart. It's not about Knighton and it's not
Yeah.
about Cooper specifically. It is about guys that have worked together long enough
Mm-hmm.
or done it or trust each other enough
Yep.
that whatever the system is, because we didn't love it all the time.
Mm.
Right? We get off the field on third down, or
Mm-hmm.
tighten up on third down, or you can't keep giving up so we were bitching and moaning
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. My point is, whatever you do, just be married to it,
Right.
so you can all be right or wrong together. Like
Right.
that's because it allows you to hang in there because you know what you're supposed to fall back on, even if it's
Right.
going crappy,
Yeah.
right? Like even if MacArthur or Patton, even if this was the strategy and we appear to be getting our wall appears to be getting pushed back, I know what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to hang in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
where I think that's where I think it bubbles over and they go wrong. Whatever you do from a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, or whatever standpoint, it has to be married amongst the position guys so they know what to fall back on.
Right. Right. For sure. I mean, again, having a systematic approach is, the most sure way, right, to guarantee the same results, right? Now you can have a bad system and get the same results, right? And that doesn't mean just because you have a system, right, that it's guaranteed to have good results. So again, they have to figure out, for one, what are the type of personalities we want to fill the locker room with, right? The competitive spirit, toughness, mental, physically, those type of things. But then what's the skill set? What can, and again, you guys had a great segment before I got on. Like, what can we go without, right? What can we go without? What's the one thing in the recruiting process we can say, hey, if this guy has this, it's okay if he doesn't have this, because we feel like we have an elite teacher at the linebacker level of block recognition, right? We just need to find guys that can play fast downhill, finish tackles hard, right? Play both ways. Maybe that's our criteria linebacker, right? We need guys that are two-way guys, right? Or guys that make plays on both sides, right? They can do X, Y, Z, right? We know they may be limited here, but we have the guy here to help fill that gap. So again, has to be something where it sounds like the defensive staff is going to be evaluated, right? It's going to be interesting to see how many guys are out of that group after this year or who stays. But I think again, it's got to be systematic. They got to find a system they believe in, an approach they believe in that can be duplicated on a week-to-week basis, regardless of the opponent.
Michael, you talked a couple times about how you thought Butler maybe changed philosophy or changed how he approached things over the course of the season. At one point, you said it felt like about mid-October. I don't know if that was intentional because you know what game was there, or if that's just when in your head it feels like it changed. But that was October 17th was Minnesota. After the Minnesota game, we heard John Butler say to the effect that he got spooked by one of their big plays and basically started doing things differently. Was that something you were talking about specifically, or do you think that might have been a catalyst for what we ended up seeing in the second half of the season?
No, that's great, Ravi. I wouldn't say that was exactly what I was thinking, but that probably is where my brain probably took me to. When you look at Minnesota and even just all the things that came out of it, I think it was that the same week Rule said, we got coaches that barely, took them serious, and
Yes. Yep.
so I mean, we can do the whole
And
CSI,
coach, he knows that that's his fault.
yeah, yeah, but we can do the whole. I mean, I feel like if we really, again, Rule's great at this. We can do the whole CSI, get us a little board, start getting the rubber band, start pinning all the quotes to what each game, and you will find, I think, just structurally, again, this is, I don't know, I haven't talked to anybody. It's my perspective. I feel like this was a system that Rule wanted to carry over. Butler may not have wanted to continue it. Did it, right? Had some success on the back end, right? It was good early on. But once I think we got into the Big Ten, again, this is where, again, I feel like I can come to the conclusion, just as a coach, seeing stuff, that once we got into the Big Ten and you got a more I when you say complex, I would say more schematic run game outside of what you got. Well, Cincinnati was okay. They had more quarterback runs, but you got more just more scheme in the run game in the Big Ten. I felt like Butler just think he wasn't able to grasp fully what they were doing in real speed, while also trying to coach up guys, while also trying to develop guys up front, also trying to find new guys to play up there. And yeah, again, I think just the lack of marriage between the front and back end was exposed. I mean, we saw it in Michigan, right? And we analyze those runs, only to see those runs show up versus Minnesota, show up versus Rutgers, show up right in all these games. And now that's when I say, okay, there's something schematically off with the structure right now, and it continued to be exposed. And you see the same thing, you're going to keep getting, or you, if you can't handle something, you're going to keep seeing it every week. And that was what Nebraska's defense got.
Mm, really good stuff there, Michael.
Man.
Last thing for me, because I saw you on Twitter quite a bit. You've been putting some stuff out there about what you'd be looking for a defensive coordinator for Nebraska. I don't know how to say his name. It's the Tulsa defensive coordinator. I think it's Vince Kears or Karras.
Curious,
Kears.
curious.
Um, what do you like about what you've seen from him? And is he your top choice, or you just kind of like what he does?
That would be. I mean, I understand the bigger names and maybe more obvious names to Husker fan base. But if I'm looking for a guy, I'm necessarily gonna have to spend top dollar for one, right? And to where he's still gonna have control over the coaching staff, that he can come in and he can, bring in the guys he wants to bring in. So you have that pool of money available. But his track record, he's been a head coach at Mount Union, has won national championships there. I really got introduced to his defense. They had a defensive tackle. Last name was Alexander. Was a dog. Nose tackle, just wrecking havoc. And was just watching their defenses and stuff he does. I mean, he's been in the top. I mean, he's been the defense coordinator 3 years there, but I think he's been in the top five in defense, or top 10 in defense at Toledo, I believe, every single year. Creates high havoc rate. And just does a really good job, I think, at that level, right? Developing the talent around him. Obviously, when you're in the MAC and you're Ohio school, right, you're mainly getting your guys from Ohio, right? You're mainly getting your guys from a certain spot. So I think he has a systematic approach already, right? And the area I think we got to get into. I understand wanting to go into the South and get these guys, right? But there's too much money rolling through in the SEC to really get the high level, and not even high level, even the developmental guys that have the frame and things like that, but just need the tool, the teaching. That we need to start getting into the Ohio's, Wisconsin's, Michigan's, and start pushing into there to get our O line and get our bigger guys up, our guys up front. Just natural toughness too, with those guys being in colder time climates, in my opinion, and being more adapted to that. But I like what he does. I mean, it's a 4-2-5, so everybody clap together. We can get back to a quote unquote 4-man front.
We need
And
four down, am I
That's
right?
childish.
We
yeah,
need four
That's
down.
childish,
no more, no
Michael.
more, no more 3-3-5 talk. Which actually, he does run a little bit at the odd front, so don't tell anybody that till they see it.
Our college
Um,
football professor agrees with he is applauding vigorously, and this
there
is what
you go.
we're living
On Vince Kears.
But I mean, simple court. I mean, actually, if you guys look on the internet enough, you'll find a small sample of his defensive playbook from Mount Union. When I look at it, all right, don't cry out, Husker fans. But it looks very similar as far as what they do to a lot of what we did with Mark Banker. It's very simplistic in their quarters. They're going to play palms. They're going to play, man match quarters, right? Poach the backside safety. I mean, stuff we see in high school, kind of every week, but just the how they do it and the complexity of the zone blitzes and things like that he adds in there that makes it the system. But as far as the structure, it's just a 4-2-5 quarter system. Now he's coached. I think I like about him too. He's coached every position, I think, except for maybe DB. On the defensive side of the ball, offense also has been an offensive line coach. So again, when you talk about not only marrying the structure from the front and back end, but also understanding how the offense block certain schemes, right? And the maybe tools the offense may use to get a guy out of the B gap, right? Or the things they may do to try to get the end to stay wide when they're trying to cut or kick them out and things like that. So I think he has a good grasp on just overall ball. He's been a head coach, one at a high level at Mount Union, has been successful at Toledo. Again, somebody I don't think is as big of a name, but somebody, if we can get him now. I think if he gets into a bigger program, is allowed to recruit better players. I think he's shown the ability to develop, and that's what we need. I mean, we get a splash guy. I know, what's the guy from Wisconsin, Jim Leonard.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, I never. Yeah, I didn't allow myself to go there, even though that was Robbie.
Yeah,
Just because I
yeah,
don't.
that's the name I keep hearing. I'm just like, I think he's waiting on Fickle to fizzle out at Wisconsin, or get a DC job.
Joseph to get a job.
Yeah, go somewhere and get another job. So
I mean, that defense is pretty legit. And
yeah. I don't know if I'm leaving that. I'm not leaving that anytime soon.
What?
And I mean, BT Jordan, the guy, D line guy, he's over there at Denver too. He's got those guys playing ball.
Nothing's a matter. So I'm not trying to make this a thing, but like we know historically, and listen, Vance Joseph is great. We know historically the brothers usually don't get the second shot.
Wow.
Yeah,
they don't.
They don't.
I'm not trying to go look at the record.
Hey, you look at these coaches. Well, I guess a couple of them. You got Marshall. Marshall got it.
That's why you always defend him.
When we look at the retread coaches, the brothers don't get a lot of second chances. That's all I'm saying.
Hey,
or it takes way longer.
Hey, you can't see me right now, Robbie, but I got my right fist up in the air, my brother. I'm with you. Fight the power.
I'm just saying, historically, the data backs that up. So,
it backs it up.
Vance Joseph may not be going anywhere as fast as he probably should. That's my only point.
I'll say a guy that I just got introduced to I kind of heard about him. He's at Alabama. Jamarcus Shepard, his press conference. You talk about winning a press conference, man. He was very, very impressive. He had a quote I was shooting around to a couple of my good friends and just men that I knew. Just talking about we all walk around with a little bit of brokenness, but somebody needs you today. And I think that's getting off a football note, just as we get into the winter and, we get in these holiday times, people get a little bit in more somewhat depressive states and things like that. But just know, man, somebody needs you to be a better version of yourself today, and not tomorrow. So guess to end that with my preacher quote.
Hey, love it, MRI. Appreciate you as always. Shoot. We will we'll talk again next week.
We're always gonna get along, MRI, because you like to problem solve and not just complain.
I'll do a lot of complaining, but I'll do a lot more problem solving. I try to at least.
I gotta get off my chest first, and then we'll figure it out.
Then we can figure it out.
Again,
see, that's why we get along.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, that's cool.
Great dynamic. Great dynamic.
Out here watching.
Yes, sir. Man, appreciate you guys, man. Enjoy your Thursday and go Big Red.
All right, MRI. Wow.
See, that's why I like him. Nah, he gets it.
You need to come up with something else.
What's that? What do you come up with?
Oh man.
No, so I think listen, I wouldn't have a problem with Vince Kuris from I think I said Tulsa, Toledo. It's Toledo. Darius Alexander was the defensive tackle that MRI was talking about that they had over there at Toledo. He ended up being a third-round draft pick of the Giants. But yeah, I'm not dead set on Leonard. I do think that is he checks all the boxes for me. I don't know if it's realistic or not. I really don't.
Yeah.
But history in the Big Ten, history of doing it without I don't think we were ever enamored with Wisconsin's athletes, right? Defensively for the most part. They had some good players, but we weren't enamored.
A lot of guys in the league.
Yeah, but we weren't enamored with they're getting all these 4 or 5 stars.
Yeah, I get it.